today our goal is to introduce you implementation of DNN page workflow. It is something that is a capability of a platform for a long time, but actually in DNN version 10 we introduce it to everyone, and the purpose of this presentation is to show you that. Thanks to all sponsors that makes this happening possible. So presentation is for developers who would like to implement page workflow in their custom models. Also for solution architects that need to implement solutions that will have workflow as part and publishing as part of the whole story, and also to leads to understand the whole story about page workflows within DNN 10. So, a long-time developer, since the start of the DNN part of DNN group, very proud that I'm part of Too Sexy core development team, and yeah. Okay, so what was the situation with DNN? DNN had workflow capabilities for many, many years. I believe it was introduced somewhere in version 7 or 8. But so all APIs were actually within DNN, but you couldn't use it through the DNN UI since all that part was missing. So for everyday DNN user, there was no value in that, and our goal was to try to add those missing parts so that everyone actually could use page workflow as part of from the DNN 10 onwards. Daniel Mettler and I decide to together try to uncover that part and make it possible together also with under lead of the DNN tag team that helps a lot since it was yeah, very, very interesting adventure. So this is just to get some pictures. So you can see the diagram of all tables that are connected to DNN page workflow, so or DNN workflow at all. And as you can see, there is a lot of there, but actually it wasn't used properly till DNN 10. It is important to also note that this whole local story is used or depends on content items that are also part of the DNN framework. Since the content items can have information like state or is something published, what is version, and things like that. And those content items are already attached to tabs, so pages, modules, instances of the modules on the pages and on the files. So all that is somehow already connected to whole workflow story. It is only important to understand while we can have more versions of the tabs or module instances on files that is not supported. So if you overwrite file, yeah, you will get new file over existing one. DNN is coming with already pre-built workflows. So the most simple one is direct publish. So it is actually something that you already have in DNN that you are not using workflow at all. when you change something, it is immediately visible to everyone else. So that is direct publish, only one state published, and that's it. More interesting is save draft page workflow, where we have a draft, and with publishing, we are moving to publishing, and from that point on, it is visible to, our change is visible to everyone else. And the most sophisticated is content approval workflow, where we have actually 3 stages: initial draft, then ready for review, and then publish. The idea is that you have editor that will do some changes, prepare the draft, and then it will send that to a higher level some manager who will review it, and if everything is okay, that higher level will publish those changes to everyone else, so it will be visible to public. Actually, to even start introducing a workflow within DNN, there are some other things that we need to prepare before. And so there is some groundwork that was necessary to be available to everyone. It was kind of a very similar story to workflow. Here we are talking about detailed permissions. In older version of DNN, so 9 and older, you are used to see only view edited permissions on pages, on modules, on files. But that is not enough to create a complete workflow. We need more detailed permissions like add, copy, delete, manage, content, and so on. And all that was possible through DNN framework, but was actually never introduced in DNN before. So yeah, we sit and we try to make that functionality, and that was actually our first goal that we had. We started with that one. We have those permissions on page level. So here you have a list of all those permissions and some explanations. And we have those also on module level, and we have it on folder or file level. And I will try just to show you that. So let's try here. Okay, so for instance, here on page level, so this is page settings. In permissions, from DNN 10, yeah, we have all good view, but then we have all those new detail permissions until the edit. That is also old one. So edit is actually kind of grouping all those little permissions. If you click edit, you will get all. But to create a really workflow that is useful, you need to have those smaller little permissions, so you can adjust the workflow and permission system as necessary. So this is on page level. We have similar thing on module. So you can see it here. And also we have it with files, but here I do not have. Yes. So, for instance, here in site assets, on any folder or file, we have this edit part, and in that part we have permissions, and we have all those new detailed permissions, so you can adjust it as necessary. So that was yeah, first step that was necessary to start introducing workflow. After that, we need to introduce also two new user roles. So we introduce content editors and content managers. So content editors are the users that have permissions to edit some content, update it, and so on. And when they are finished, they send it to content manager. So those could those have all those permissions from editors, but additional permission also to publish final version. And of course that is also visible in roles. So those roles, content editors and content managers, are now part of DNN 10 and ongoing, and it should be used as a part of whole workflow story. Okay, and so that was second step, and now we could start. Oh, sorry, Sasha.
So on the page settings, by default, managers have publish files, and content editors don't have publish permissions.
Yes, so content editor shouldn't have publish permission. Yes, you are.
It's by default when you create a new page.
So it is by default every time when you create a new site, it will be created with those roles and with those permissions. So it is pre-built in similar way as administrators and so on. Okay, so after we did those two steps, now we start to building code that was necessary to use page workflow. So, and that includes workflow configuration, then includes tab actions, since we need to define what should happen in each step of workflow or every time when state is changed. We also need to introduce some new parts in DNN UI, so that is everything visible to end users. And there was also one interesting part related to localization that had to be taken care of, so that workflows could also be localized. When we are talking about workflow settings, they live on portal settings, so on site level, where we first need to enable it, and then we can decide what workflow we would like to use. Then on each page that is actually inheriting default site settings, you can change the decision and decide to disable the workflow or use some other type of workflow. We have also tab versions, so with each change of state, actually with each publishing a new version is created. And there is a possibility in API to go to older version, but that part is not really introduced in UI yet, because we didn't manage it, so it is something that has to be done in the future. But we have to use all those APIs to make all things possible. These tab actions is some code in DNN that defines what happens with each action change. And we provide a default version of those actions. And so that is a workflow that you can see within DNN, and that I will show you. But the interesting part is that actually you can override those. If you have some other needs, you can create your version of actions and replace those from DNN. And also similar thing is also with the workflow. If you are not satisfied with those three default workflows, or API supports creation of custom workflows with many steps, and it is up to you to create those through database or API, but that is not the scope of this presentation, so just for you to know.
Small question.
Yes?
Could you use it for A/B testing as well?
Okay, if you think that workflow is okay for A/B testing, yes, you can use it. Yeah, since by default you always when content editor or manager creates some change on page, a draft version of that page is created, and that is only visible to those editors and managers, and of course administrators, and and everyone else see last published version. So, of course, maybe you can create a new version of workflow that will have different versions and depend on some criteria like role or whatever, show it to different users and create some kind of A/B testing. Yeah, it's possible since you can have more versions. If DNN supports that, if model that you are used to create content supports that, you are in good position. And actually it is not that hard to create those new workflows and actions. If you need to customize it, it's really not a lot of code. So, like here we have a few of those interfaces that already exist in DNN from all time, like tab workflow settings or tab version builder. And this tab change tracker is one that is used on each module that supports workflow on every change. So now I will show you what we have there. Just mentally, let's go through a few steps before I open DNN. So the first step is usually you need to enable it on the site, and so inside settings there is a section to enable it. I will show you all this in DNN so you will see it bigger. Then also on tab settings or on page settings we have two places. One is just the status on the first tab, and then also you can customize workflows on other place. See that? So let's look at those. So here inside settings, inside behaviors, more. So actually it is at the end of all settings. You have this section here. By default, it looks like this, like this. So it is disabled by default. You need to enable this versioning thing because it is required for the workflow. You can also choose how many versions will be preserved in a history, and default is 5. But you cannot at this moment you cannot see those versions. You can see only last published version and last draft version. And here on the right side, you can enable or disable workflow. And here in drop-down list, you can choose what workflow you will use in your site. So all those three. When you save it, yeah, that's it. So that is one place. Other place is here on page settings. So I don't know, can you see, because it is a little smaller, but for instance, here we have new line. It says publish status draft, since I touched something on this page. Versioning is enabled, so it's on, and workflow is content approval in draft state. So that is just quick status of this page. And under advanced tab in more, so again on the end of all settings, you have options here to enable or disable workflow or change to different workflow if you need different workflow on some other page. So yeah, it is little hidden, but okay. If we need it more, probably those things could be changed. So yeah. So that's that first part. So that is configuration part. And now, when workflow is enabled, for instance, and we have that content approval workflow, there are some states that happens with page and with module and content if module implements that. So we have start workflow. Then we can move with complete state action. We can move between states that exist within workflow. We can go backward with the discard state, and manager can complete workflow. So that is actually publishing action. So move workflow to the end, or discard complete workflow. So undo everything what is done. And these actions or functionalities are visible as buttons at the bottom of the page. So yeah. So they are here. This is edit bar. You can see. Or maybe I hope that you can see here. Here is current state. It says content approval, so it is type of workflow that is enabled on this page, and below it says draft. That is the current state of this page, and then on the right side we have some buttons that you can click that depends on the state of this workflow and your permissions. So here I am super user. And I have options like submit, publish, or discard, and those are changed depending on your role and the state of the workflow. So content editor, of course, will not have a publish option to see.
Sorry, what does the submit button here?
Sorry, I didn't understand.
What is the first button? What would do that?
Submit button will move workflow to next state, whatever that is. So for instance, if you are content approval workflow, first state is draft, and you completed your draft, you are editor, you completed your draft, and you would like to send that draft for approval to your manager. And then you will click submit, and that will change the state of the workflow from draft to ready for approval or ready for review. And then your manager will see it, and it can decide, is it okay, so you can publish it. So that is that next button, publish. Or it can send it back to you because you need to do something more, something missing, or whatever. So you can send to each other those until it's okay. And of course, if your manager is completely unsatisfied with the change that was proposed, he can discard all, and that will just delete those changes, and you will stay with the latest published version that was before you even start. So that is the third button, publish. I will show you now, or at least I will try to show you.
and then add a comment, please review the last paragraph, for instance, and then resubmit?
Yes, that is actually very useful and very nice, nice feature that is not implemented yet.
Can you just say back to draft with a message?
Yes, I was just, yeah. So this workflow actually you can control through two interfaces. One is this within DNN on page, so you can click buttons and move it back and forward. Another is through DNN user messages. So in notifications, when a change happens on some page, so it moves to next step from draft to ready to approval, then, for instance, manager will get a message on what page is changed, and it will have actions there, links there, so he can approve, send back, see it, and things like that. In this moment, in this first version, these are only automated messages, so you cannot choose the text that is there. So you cannot add your comment to it because it's just automatically created. I think I have to say, I think in version latest version 10, I didn't saw those messages. Maybe they are disabled somewhere in publishing, but so we'll check that. But anyhow, adding those comments with request for review is very useful thing, and also when manager decide is it okay or not, so you can communicate back. And okay, it is something that is possible to implement in DNN, but it is some work that have to be done, and that's it. And so my suggestion actually, maybe you can create issue on DNN and give some suggestions, and hopefully someone will take care of that. Okay, so just for a moment. So my plan is to show you. I think this is, so here we have one site. We have a content editor. As you see, as content editor, there is no so many options available. Okay, I still have to log in as as administrator just to check is workflow enabled. I think it's not. Okay, so this is default state, it is not enabled, so we will enable it. And we will choose content approval workflow. In this site, we already have some users here. So we have one content editor, one content manager that will do some change. And let's add one page. Okay, now as editor. Okay, as editor, I'm on this page. It is added. Actually, no one sees this page since it is not, by default, it is not visible to everyone. So only editor see it. We can see below that it is content approval workflow and it is in draft state. So I will just add some comment here. Add some content here. So yeah, this is great page. And now I submit it to my content manager. So you can see now that this page is moved from draft to ready for review state. So it says below. So let's log in as Okay, perfect. So now I'm a manager, and I'm on that P1 page, but I do not see anything since we are not in edit mode. When I click here, I now see latest version of that page, one that is now in ready to review. Yeah.
How did the manager get an alert? Get an email or?
So alerts should actually be here. So here we have these messages and notifications. But for some reason, in latest DNN, it is, I cannot see it here, so yeah, it's something to follow up. But when we developed this version, actually that was the first interface that we created, since we were missing this bottom part we had to create it. So from the start, we tested everything with those messages, and at that point it was working. So we have to see what went wrong there. But those messages should be here, and here you will have actions to approve and whatever. So this is standard DNN functionality that is very useful in this case. Here on the top right, when you have your username, usually you should see a number of messages that is waiting for you. At least it was in version 9. I don't know what is in version 10 now, because they changed the design a little, so maybe that was not followed. But it is something to be seen and to be tested. I don't know. By default, I think those messages are not sent to email. Or maybe they are. I don't know. But I guess that is not a big thing to do. So because all infrastructure is there, so why not? Okay, so that is our content manager. He can now, for instance, he can publish this page, he can reject it, or he can discard. And we will publish it just to make this easy. And from this point on, this is visible to everyone else like this, and editor maybe can create new version and so on. Okay. Okay, this is something that I already showed you. I don't know, when we created this functionality, we were using DNN-9. And here you maybe can see this small red flag with the number. That is number of messages. So yeah, I show all those things.
It's work on the content of HTML module here in this example, but is it also working, for example, for the page title or?
Yes. So this is implemented in a platform on a page or tab level. Page title should be supported. And support, so on page you can have models, but not every model supports workflow from default. So of course, it is very important that platform has at least one module that supports workflows, and we had also to upgrade HTML module to support it. So core DNN HTML module had some workflow implementation that was not default DNN workflow. It is some old workflow, and with the introduction of this pure DNN workflow, we implemented that also as a part of HTML module, so it is supported. And it is really nothing that I can show you, since the UI is the same as before, just implementation behind is now smaller with less code and so on, because most of that is in the platform.
I'll just add a little bit to that. So
The way, I mean, again, DNN already had most of this inside it. It was just hidden. And the reason was that previously, of course, Evoke wanted to be the premium product, which had these kind of functionalities, but they realized that for it to be, let's say, maintainable, they have to put the API into their core. Now, this basically means the page, including the page settings, the page title, all that is in the versioning. The modules, specifically which modules are on the page, the order of the modules, all that is in the versioning. That means I can have a draft that has more modules, that has the order changed. I can remove modules in the draft. But again, if the draft is discarded, then it will still be just like before. All that is there. The module title, the module settings, everything is part of the platform the way it works. The only thing that's missing, of course, is the question, does the module contents understand that it too must live in multiple versions? And that's what Don't You had to do for the text HTML, because what DNN Corp did before is, a long, long time ago, the HTML module was the first one to receive versions. And they did that in a way that was very unique, and I guess probably a year later they realized they must make something more generic. And they then kept that implementation secret to themselves and left the, let's say, the buggy HTML version in DNN to then tell their customers they have the premium mode. And Don't You then re-implemented the versioning for the HTML so that it works. That it's also a good example how to do it. But as of now, I believe only the HTML module and TooSexy have content versioning that sticks to this workflow. I believe every other module does not do that.
Yes, yes, that's my understanding. Yeah. Yes. Just one more thing that I forgot to show you in DNN. So here I'm content manager, and one question is, okay, what pages I have in draft? So maybe I need to approve it or something. And in page management, in search, you have filters where you can search by published states. So here you have, for instance, draft. Okay, in this site I currently do not have draft, but in normal I will actually get a list. So, but if I see, for instance, published, you can see it is list of the pages, you can see the state is published, date, what type of workflow, and so on. So this is the UI where you can find a page that you maybe need to review, for instance, if you are still, okay, it is kind of minimal functionality. It will be nice to have more. And it is something that have to be defined and implement when we see that there is interest for that. Okay. Okay, so HTML module is the first and only module within platform that currently implement workflows, page workflow support. Workflow API, you can also implement it out of the page for whatever you need. You can use it for completely different thing because it is already there. And some third-party models already use that, but it is not part of this publishing story that is core to DNN platform. As Daniel mentioned, TooSexy is supporting this page publishing workflow from the Evoke times and now works with the DNN platform and so on. Only thing to mention, you know that when you can register each TooSexy installation, so you can enable those core additional features. And one of those is a page publishing workflow. So registration is free. You need to register it, you need to enable it, and then TooSexy supports it. And last thing, that I plan to show you, actually during the development of this UI, we needed one module to support workflow as example. So I just to see how to do it, I quickly create a DNN module from DNN model templates, those ones that you can have in Visual Studio. I don't know who created latest version, but it just create very simple HTML edit-like module. And I deleted everything unnecessary from it and just added those workflow functionalities. So that module supports publish workflow. And actually, it is very simple thing. Here, if you see, yeah, you need to track a version and publish state of your content. And on save action, you need to check is tab workflow enabled. And if it is, then you can call the method that will store your draft version, or you can store it. And then you need to call this track module modification with some info that will tell page, okay, this model was changed. You need to, the DNN platform need to create a draft version and so on. So it is very easy to implement in custom module. And on publish action, you need a publish version to it. So I also planned, yeah. So there is iVersionable interface that have few methods that you need to implement that are standard, and I think I can show you that here. So there is a link in this presentation, and there is a GitHub repository. It is called Content Workflow DNN Module. It is, yeah, it is very default code. You can see now is 2 years old. And here is that model. So on feature controller of DNN module, I just added iVersionable interface and implemented it. So now I have this method: delete version, rollback version, publish version, get published version, and get latest version. And that's it. How you will implement those, it is up to you. Example that I created here is actually using content items of DNN to implement those, because it was so simple since everything is already there. And I also could store the content in those content items. So yeah, you can check a code. It's simple, and you will quickly understand how to implement it. You can play with it. So please do not accept this part. Do not look other code, because it is not best case how you should write C# or DNN code at all. It is not using dependency in action and anything that is usual to be used today. So yeah, just look this small part. Maybe we should update those templates. I don't know. Okay, we are almost to the end. Okay, actually, that's it. That's it, more or less. Yeah, DNN workflow, DNN page publish workflow is part of DNN 10. It is there. It is working with HTML module. It is working with TooSexy module or your custom module if implemented. Please use it. Please give us some feedbacks. It's a very nice feature. I see it as a competitive plus compared to some other platforms. So, yeah. If you have any questions.
On a very simple website, that looks nice. But on a site where we implemented something similar, was custom developed, there was a couple hundred editors and a couple, maybe 10 or so managers. The thing that I'm missing here is the control panel where everybody can see what's their work. So if a manager has a couple hundred editors editing different things, how can he see what is pending?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the same thing at the page level, at the model level, or whatever level. And outside of the house also. If I'm an editor, where I can see my content and in which state it is. Is there anything related to that, currently, that resembles this in any shape or way?
Yes, so question is how editor or manager can find the current state or list of the pages that are in different states, through using current UI. So current UI is very, very minimalistic, and it can be improved in many ways. For instance, as I mentioned, here in page management, in search part, you have those filters, and you can get a list of all pages that are in draft state, for instance.
Does that include the content inside the page?
So,
for example, I have a page with 3 different HTML modules. One is published, one is draft, and the other one is whatever pending approval. Will this reflect here, or this is just the status of the page?
so this is just list of the pages. So to see the state of the page, you need to go to page and see it. So, and if you are in edit mode and you have a right role, you will get the latest draft version. And if you are not in edit mode, you will see a published version that is visible to everyone else. Daniel, yes.
There's probably a slight misunderstanding of what the model does. The moment you go to a page and change anything on that page, even on a module, the page is turned into draft state. So the draft is not just the module itself that is in draft state, the entire page is in draft. Yeah, because it's always treated as one unit. Okay, and so there's not a concept that only the module is in draft. The moment the module has a draft, the page becomes draft. And all the changes that you make on that page, it could be a spelling mistake here, it could be a repositioning of a module, it could be a title, all that is still together in one draft. So that's why the current access of show me all the pages that are in draft is that question. But there would not be a summary of these are the changes that were made. Does that answer the question?
Would be a way to work around that, to have a SQL statement, store that in DNN-Intelligence, put that module on the page for editors, for instance. In SQL, you could even do something like where username is editor name, and then you have my work, stuff like that.
Yes, yes.
And as Tonchi was saying, for some reason right now the messaging is turned off. Normally, of course, you'd have almost like a to-do list in your inbox, because it would say, okay, these 3 things have been submitted for approval, and you would have that in your messages, which currently doesn't work. And there in the message, you can also say approve, approve, approve.
Yes?
How would that work with things that are lists like blog modules and stuff like that? Because then you have sort of a blog post that is in draft, or
Yes, so, yeah, so
how would it work in this concept?
it is up to module vendor implementation. So API is behind, and vendor should decide how it should implement versioning it in its module. I guess if one item is changed, then it is a new version of content. And you can change 1 or 10 items, and all move to draft until it's published. And then you should save that as a published version, last published version, and next change will again trigger it to draft and so on. That is my understanding how things should work. Yeah. It is supported to content items, so it is not hard to implement, but there is some work for module developer to do it. Yes, Sasha?
Can you go back to page settings?
Okay.
On the permissions? Who can I see that the manager can publish and not the editors?
Yeah, so here is here is the manage permission. It is not always easy to understand what this manage permission means. Kaže, always managing the page settings except permissions. So it is affecting page settings, managing of page settings. So that means that our content editor have option to add new page. It cannot publish page, but it can create new page or change some page settings like page title.
But where and publish permissions?
It is part of actions in a workflow. In those tab actions in implementation, it is hard-coded that content.
The name of the role is hard-coded.
Yes, since this role is actually DNN role like administrator.
Yeah.
It is not.
You cannot create a second role for publisher, for example.
This one is hard-coded, it's part of this implementation. Of course, it is possible to create your implementation that will work with other roles, because yeah, all that is supported, but that is not part of UI now. You need to create more actions.
That special roles, like even the administrator, even with the administrator, it's sometimes difficult because in some parts of the code, it's really hard-coded to use whether it's admin. I remember that I changed it in a few points of the course a couple of years ago to use the administrator's role, which is part of the portals table. But in the portals table, we only have the administrator's role and the registered user's role. We do not have any other or pointers to special roles within the portals table. So that would need a special function role table in addition, so you can point from portal to a specific role which has specific additional features and could do other things. But at the moment, this doesn't exist in the core.
It's also the reason why we cannot change the permissions of these roles.
So you have to understand in all workflow systems that exist, roles are an integral part of a workflow. So you don't decouple roles from a workflow. Like you could create a new workflow with new roles. And to say, for instance, I have like 4 stages before something gets approved, and you would create the roles that go into it. But you can't decouple the two things.
But the question was that some of those roles are hard-coded by name.
Yeah, but because they're also,
At the moment, we don't have
it's also because they're part of the legal workflows that are exist.
The workflows are not coupled to permission, they are coupled really to roles.
Exactly, they're reported to the workflow. So that's the way you should see that. I would also like to just thank Daniel